On joining us now, Jimmy, here to cover the rest of the D3 landscape for us. We had a lot of shit go down in D3. It's kind of exciting, kind of different how they handle the playoffs compared to D2, obviously with the automatic bids from the conferences. So I guess I'm assuming that's where we want to start, huh?
Yep. So there's 14 teams actually clinched their playoff berth this week. Obviously, huge weekend in Division III football. We saw our Instagram posts, all those guys. So shout out to all those teams that clinched. So we'll start off here: Randolph, Macon, Wartburg, Alma, Grove City, Springfield, Trinity, Cortland, Delaware Valley, who has like really cool jerseys. By the way, I just wanted to say that jerseys
badass.
are like really cool jerseys.
Yes.
Then you got Johns Hopkins, UWL, who's clinched their back-to-back playoff appearances. Then obviously Mount Union being back in the playoffs, no surprise there. Endicott, Hardin-Simmons, and Ithaca. So all 14 of those teams have clinched. So that's obviously huge for them.
Yeah, and a big part of that too is because you do have the one regular season game left. So a lot, not all of them, but a lot of those instances are clinching the automatic berth from the conference and then also clinching at least a share of the conference title. So most of those teams do still have to win this last week of the season to get the outright title in their respective conferences. And that's why we have a lot of teams too that you're probably going to mention here that still have not potentially earned those bids.
Yeah. So there's a handful of remaining conference leaders. So like if the playoffs started today, these teams here on this list would be in the playoffs. But so obviously you got North Central. They haven't clinched yet. But I mean, they're the number one team in the country. Yeah. Probably regardless, like they're going to get in even if they lose. But I cannot see them losing the rest of the regular season here. In all honesty, Mount St. Joseph, one of those teams leading their conference. Gallaudet, Susquehanna. Western Connecticut, Bethel. Then they got Gustavus this week in the MIAC championship. That'll be a pretty cool game. Illinois College, who they've been lighting up the scoreboard all year.
Dude, their offense is ridiculous. Destin Chance back there just slinging the rock. He's had a couple of receivers. I think it was Colin Brunstein that has been catching about freaking all of them, it seems like. But they spread the rock out, and I don't know what conference is that. I can't off the top of my head.
Shoot, I don't know.
I'll figure it out. But keep rolling. Their offense is ridiculous right now.
Yeah, they've been unbelievable. They've been unreal. And then you got Aurora, the Spartans. They're trying to get back into the playoffs. They had a hell of a season last year, and they've been rolling all year this year too. And then DePaul as well is having quite a year. They're leading their conference. Christopher Newport, Linfield, Chapman, Minnesota Morris, and Belhaven. That kind of rounds out the first place teams right now, but have not technically clinched yet, but they're on the track to control their own destiny, if you will. All they have to do is win, and they're in no matter what.
Yeah.
So, that's always good to have that, be in control of your own destiny, So.
The Illinois College, they're in the MWC, which I'm like, they're not in the Mountain West. No, it's the Midwest Conference. That is, I was not familiar with that. So you have like the other couple squads that are near the top there: Monmouth in Illinois, Lake Forest, Cornell College. But honestly, not a ton of teams that I'm very familiar with over there. But yeah, I mean, this time of year is super exciting for these D3 squads, especially when you get these teams that have clinched their bids respectively in their conference. But then the challenge becomes, you already know you're in the dance. So how much of a fight do you get these last couple weeks? That it becomes really interesting. And we know that seeding is obviously a huge part of this. So they should definitely have all the motivation in the world if they want to get a home playoff game.
Oh yeah. All these teams still have their foot on the gas. Make no mistake about it. Like absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. What game do you want to start with here? About our game of the week with in the WIAC?
Oh yeah, that game was spectacular.
It was.
Being lacrosse clinched the home field advantage for the first playoff game of the year, and River Falls, man, oh man, like they're having such a great year, and like now they just have such a small chance to get into the playoffs, and it's just, man, I kind of just like I almost sympathize for them because they're in our conference, they're a really good team, and their only two losses are to lacrosse and Whitewater, and I don't know, man. They had a heck of a year. They beat Mary Hardin Baylor pretty good in the beginning of the year. That was a pretty big statement win for them. But it's just kind of a bummer. That's what happens when you get 28 automatic conference winning bids in a play game. I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, that's the rules.
It's tough.
But,
it's like I remember I saw someone talking about it too, where when you look at, and I'll have to pull it up here, the River Falls schedule, but I believe that was their only kind of statement win out of conference, was that Mary Hardin Baylor win. And now in the grand scheme of things, is that as much of a statement win as we thought it was? Maybe not, right? Because that Mary Hardin Baylor team is the first time a 4-loss team in a long time. They're missing out in the playoffs entirely, no question. Your other two non-conference games are Ohio Wesleyan and Northwestern, and I understand it being in the WIAC that you need to do that, but now it bites you in the ass because now you're looking at a 2-loss team that deserves to maybe have a playoff appearance, but you didn't have necessarily the out-of-conference schedule in those other two games to maybe give you over the hump. And I think you're right. When you give all these automatic conference bids to these teams who are coming out on top, you're going to fill up your playoff picture very quickly. I think that's why the Division II realm has kind of changed so much. We see a lot of 2 and even a couple 3-loss teams in these regional rankings at the D2 level, and I think it just goes to show they understand that the strength of conference that they play, and like you said, they're losing to 2 teams that are going to probably be in the playoffs. We know La Crosse is. We're assuming that Whitewater's probably going to sneak in there as well, at an at-large.
Yeah. As long as they win this week, they're definitely going to get in there. I mean,
and who do they have? Off the top of our head? I got you. Hold on.
No. Stevens Point. Eau Claire. Okay. Yeah.
So,
okay. Yep.
Relatively safe to assume they'll be all right.
Yeah. I have a feeling they'll be fine.
Yeah. But no, that means talk about, dude, that game, the environment, how it came down to literally the last seconds. Like, it was an instant classic. And you kind of mentioned, like, for a River Falls team that over the last couple of years has seen improvement, this felt like it was their year. The Top Gun offense, the Cobra Kai defense, the verbiage was off the charts for the River Falls guys over there. But they come up just short. It feels like they're probably going to be in the Isthmus Culver's Bowl like one more year, man. They've been the last 2 years, correct?
Yep. As long as they beat Oshkosh this week, they will be in the Isthmus Bowl for the 3rd year in a row.
That's right. They still have to win against the quality Oshkosh team.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sure they're probably getting sick of the Isthmus Bowl, unfortunately, over there.
It's a weird.
They're a hell of a team. Like, I saw them in person. They're really good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. And credit to them to be able to come back in this one. They were down at one point 31-7, dude. And it felt like it was
a big comeback.
Yeah, it was all La Crosse. It was all Kaiser Helterbrand and company. Caleb Blaha turned on the Jets in the third quarter. And, the offense as an entirety, they started to really come alive, and they scored a lot of unanswered points. At the end of the day, just not enough. That block field goal to close things off. I mean, that was tough. That was tough to watch, dude, at home.
Crazy.
Oh, man.
Wild game.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah, but let's move on.
I saw that clip. It was just nuts, dude.
Yes. That clip was ridiculous. But Johns Hopkins and Dickinson with a pretty tight one there.
Yeah, this was a wild game. So it started off pretty early. Dickinson actually had an early head start in this one. And then early on, 96-yard kickoff return by Princeton Douglas. So that was pretty crazy play in that game. Johns Hopkins finished the game on 21 unanswered points.
Hello.
Dickinson now eliminated into their 3rd loss of the year. That kind of puts them out of it, unfortunately for them. And then Johns Hopkins clinches a playoff berth with this one. Huge game. Obviously, winning and going on 21 unanswered points is always just, like, so fun, probably for them. Like, that comeback win.
Awesome.
Foot on the gas, like, that's it, taking it home. So
yeah, and I think this Dickinson team was expected to put up quite a fight because talk about heading into this game, only 2 losses on the year, one of them being to RPI, who was receiving votes at the time, and we've seen gave Ithaca a really close game into overtime and has played some really good football throughout the year. Their other loss coming to another 17-ranked Muhlenberg, and we saw what they did against Johns Hopkins, right, when it came down to the last-second freaking miracle just for Johns Hopkins to eke their way out of that one. So this Dickinson team, I don't believe it was any surprise that they held their own in this, but like you said, now you're a 3-loss team in the Division III realm, and that spells a lot of things. It does not spell playoffs.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, they hit the cap. They had a nice year. They gave Johns Hopkins a hell of a game, obviously, but yeah, 3 losses isn't going to cut it, unfortunately, in Division III. So
look at an RPI team that's now in a very similar situation. They had the 1 loss heading into this week against Ithaca in overtime, and that could be something where, okay, you leave it at 1 loss, you're really pitching yourself a decent chance. Hobart comes out and takes them down this week, and that was something I certainly did not expect. And now RPI is in that very similar spot, and D3 is it's so stingy. I think just because of the amount of teams and, like you said, the automatic bids.
Oh yeah, I mean it's tough. It's really cutthroat. I mean you have to win all the conference games. I mean, obviously the non-conference games as well, but winning your conference is just so huge.
Yeah. Two rushers for Johns Hopkins over 100 yards in the day. One of them was the quarterback in Bay Harv. The other one, Spencer Ugly. They had 132 and 129 respectively. So getting it done on the ground a lot, Johns Hopkins, and that's, I guess, not something you usually associate with a late comeback. You think maybe through the air a lot more. They only had one receiver with 40 yards or more, and Cole Karate, who had 126 and a tud. That's pretty big time. But this Johns Hopkins team, I think, is still very poised to make some noise this postseason.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and they're poised for a hell of a season for sure. Absolutely.
Mount Union, though, we've talked a lot about their schedule and how, they're much like North Central. When you're in the regular season and you're inside of your conference play in the OAC, you just don't have a lot of competition. I mean, they're blowing teams out left and right ever since week one, really. And as far as their conference play is concerned, finally they get what we thought was going to be a tough matchup against number 13 team in the country and John Carroll, who put a beat down on Baldwin Wallace, who's made some great moves in the out of conference start to the year. We saw them open up with Whitewater. Mount Union left no doubt, dude. Did they?
No, not at all. Mount Union had the from
That's crazy.
49-14. Wild. I did not expect it to be a 35-point game. I did kind of expect Mount Union to win this game, in all honesty. I mean, I'm sure you probably did as well.
Yeah.
But
in this fashion?
35 points is crazy. Like, that's wild. Like, man, but I mean, now it's tough, though, because, like, John Carroll obviously being a really good team, but he did them at 2 losses. Now they might be on the outside of the bubble looking in, like kind of similar to Mullenberger, River Falls, or something like teams like that.
The first year head coach, by the way, too, at John Carroll, which for them to not to say he's like exactly turned this program around. They've been a pretty contending program, but you open up and you lose by 4 against Whitewater, and that's a game that I don't want to say you look at the schedule and you know which games you're going to lose, but you know that Mount Union is going to obviously be an uphill battle in this conference. They've run the OAC for a long time. That Whitewater game feels like a game that you scheduled that if you can go in there and pull out a win, even if you lose to Mount Union, your playoff bid is locked up. Right?
Oh, for sure.
It's a super tough season opener.
Yeah, I mean, and they battled too. They could have won that game. Like, and they probably think back, like, wow. I bet you in that locker room after the game, they definitely were thinking we should have had that one. And you look back on their seasons, like that was the game they really should have had. Because obviously the Mount Union game was kind of tough, but
Braxton Plunk, incredibly efficient every week, 29 for 35. Dude, he was surgical, 281 and 3 tuds. And then Ruby Wayne continues to just put on a clinic. I think he has just been unstoppable for them on the outside. It's been a lot of the conversation about their squad. The John Carroll, though, their offense was actually really proficient in this one. Even though they only put up that amount of points, they definitely matched Mount Union in a lot of ways, but some costly turnovers and timely possession errors. I think it ended up what cost them, among other things. But tough stuff, tough sledding there for the Blue Streaks.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you're going in there like 7-1, or like now they're just brutal, dude. Like they control their own destiny. Now it's like they need so many other things to happen to get in the playoffs now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and that's brutal. Not a great feeling. We talked with I think with both Nika and with Jonas today about them being able to win and get in, and like they don't have to wait for different things to fall into certain places to get into the playoffs. It's got to be a really good feeling. But those are most of our game recaps. I know you got one more that you want to talk about though, Bub.
Oh yeah, Rose-Hulman Defiance game, unbelievable. 78-54.
That's got to be Scorigami or some shit, dude. Like,
I mean, I'm looking through the scoreboards every week when I'm like picking games to like talk about. Like, I'm like, okay, what's like a cool like big matchup or like a ranked versus ranked team? It's like I see 78-54. I'm like, okay, I have to talk about this game no matter what, like 100%. But even time of possession in this game, kind of an interesting stat, being that it was a 24-point difference. 30 and change to 29 and change. So obviously, it's kind of a intriguing stat, being that there's such a wide margin of a victory. But both teams had 500 plus yards of offense, combining for a staggering 1,037 yards.
1,000 yards is ridiculous. 1,000 yards is crazy,
dude. That's more than half a mile of offense.
Wait, is it? Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It
dude.
is. It is.
Yes, it is.
Holy shit.
It's ridiculous. It's incredible. Both teams averaged over 6 yards per play. Also, I thought that was a pretty wild stat. And then my personal stat of the day: Rose Holman was 76% on third down.
Golly.
Yeah, that's just bonkers. I mean, I'm pretty big like a little stats guy like that. Like I kind of like looking through like the box score and everything.
That's massive, dude.
Yeah, just wild stuff. And Grant Reparita probably had a lot to do with that. 226 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns.
Man,
Crazy. But also, on the losing side of this one, we got to tip the cap to Jordan Ambrose. 407 total yards, 7 touchdowns for Defiance. So he had quite a game as well. But I mean, coming up short. I mean, but he's definitely probably feeling pretty good about that game, even though they lost. But 7 touchdowns is crazy. 400
it
yards.
absolutely is.
Yeah,
and for Rose Holman too, like this is not a team that whereas I think Defiance has struggled quite a bit this year, right? Sitting at 4-5 right now, and their offense has been able to put up points. I just think defensively they haven't really been able to put things together, as obviously it was put on display last week. Rose Holman has been on quite the tear. They're 7-2 right now, dude. Coming off that win, they lost their opener against DePaul and then an out of conference against Albion. But when it comes to the HCAC play, they have been perfect. They're going to close out the year though against Mount St. Joseph, which actually should be probably a pretty good challenge for them.
Yeah, that'll be probably a game we talk about here coming up this week in the matchups next week. So
absolutely.
I mean, the winner of this game will win the conference, I believe.
Yeah,
based on that.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Other big time scores from around the nation: Cortland taking down Brockport. I know this game actually, I think a lot of people are picking Brockport to maybe come in and play the usurper and come in defensively, I think especially to slow down Cortland's offense that's been very good this year. Number 16, Cortland holds on 41-17. That was a statement win for those guys. Kind of the same thing with Delaware Valley versus Misericordia, 28-6. They take care of business. They've done a good job of that just about all year. Alma clinches the MIAA with a win over Adrian. Muhlenberg with a very tight one that went into double overtime against Franklin and Marshall. But still, I don't know if Muhlenberg will they make the cut? Will they be an at-large bid? We think probably, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They'll be right on the cusp.
They will. They absolutely will. Randolph-Macon, we talked about them clinching. Hardin-Simmons, they close out. They get their first outright ASC championship in a long time. So they get the win over there at Austin. And then finally, a really great game that we'd be remiss if we did not talk about, at least mention. Number 12, Wheaton. They got scared by Washington U 36-35. The number 12 team in the country comes out of that one. Wheaton's only loss in the year, obviously, being to North Central. They've been playing some really good football. Wash came in and, like I said, they had to give them probably a pretty good scare right there.
Yeah, that's a little too close for comfort, I would say.
Absolutely. Other than that, though, I mean, St. John's did take care of business against a pretty solid St. Olaf team, and I think that's kind of the biggest marks from this week that we didn't get to mention. I don't believe there were too many jumps as far as the top teams are concerned and the top rankings. Obviously, River Falls dropping down a few pegs is probably one of the bigger moves from this last part of the rankings.
To be expected, though.
Jumps a spot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
John Carroll also dropping quite a few after their loss, but again, kind of expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nothing too crazy though. Anything else, brother? I think that's all we got.
Oh yeah, I think we're all finished up here.
Sweet, dude. I appreciate you, Jim. Thank you for the great stuff, dude.
All right. Take care, Kobe.